Hi, it's Dennis Daly. I always loved to take my radio show on assignment, particularly when there was food involved. One of my favorite trips was to Manhattan in 1997 for a bake-off, actually a cook-off. The year before, we'd gone to the Pillsbury Bake-Off. Now it was time to go to the Crisco Cook-Off, sponsored by Crisco and Tyson's Farms and Parents Magazine. And there was a lot to do in a quick hour. So first of all, let's hear from Susan Ward. She is from Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. Her chicken dish is called chicken in apple cream sauce.
I've been cooking pretty much since I was about 10. I'm the youngest of 5 kids raised by a single father and out of necessity. And cook with chicken a lot, probably have chicken 3+ times a week, and chicken and Crisco is pretty much how it's always prepared.
Now this is where I hate the fact that it's radio and not television. That is the prettiest dish, and I take it you don't want me to touch it because has it been judged yet?
It has been judged. It has, it's actually a different platter went in for judging. This one is for the photos and for media. And I did another platter for everybody just for tasting.
Oh my
goodness. I was able to make it 3 times. It's all in one skillet. It's done in less than a half hour.
What is there about chicken that makes it so magic? I mean, I'm not a good cook. I've always lived in little tiny apartments. My dream is someday to have the money to have a big kitchen with the island and everything. Mm-hmm. But chicken it's tough to do chicken wrong sometimes.
That's true, but at the same time, chicken has a very distinct flavor of its own, and and depending, like in this dish, I simmer it in apple juice, so it takes on the sweetness of the apple juice, and it keeps it moist. Because sometimes chicken can be dry, depending on how you prepare it. But the chicken breast I use is, and that's one thing nice too about the Tyson chicken. It's very uniform. Sometimes I'll go to get chicken, and I have a huge piece, and then I have a tiny, tiny little breast tender, and I'm trying to feed 4 people, and it just doesn't cook uniformly.
It always tickles me in some grocery stores where the meat cutter, I guess they don't like to be called butchers anymore, put all of the things in packages. Sometimes you'll find the oddest piece underneath,
right, exactly.
that you can't see through the plastic.
It's like he's trying to hide it himself.
So you have this with this lovely sauce and parsley and then sliced apples. It's very pretty, and it's on a gorgeous dish.
Yes, it very much so, and it really shows up. And it's the element of the contest is child pleasing. And I wanted the platter to be more whimsical and not so serious because I have a 4.5-year-old, my biggest fan, and he loves this dish, and he loves to have it put out on something really fun.
Is it tough with all the sugary stuff that's out there? I mean, if you watch Saturday morning TV, it's all, just going to throw out some names now, it's all popsicles and Chewy bars and all this kind of stuff. To actually convince the child that you have to eat something decent, to make it appealing like this?
It's, the fact that it has apples, and everybody loves apples, and it's it has natural sweetness, and then it's made with apple juice, and so the natural apple juice and the sweetness of the apple comes through in the chicken. And I think that's what's appealing.
Now, do you know whether other people are going to have to look at this? I mean, can I take a little corner, or is that...
Actually, there's a little right there.
I can get in here with my finger. I should have brought a fork. Let's see if I can do this without getting it on the floor here. There we go.
How's that?
Can you come to Los Angeles and fix this for me?
Come and live with you as your chef.
What do you do for a living?
I'm a mom for a living.
You're a mom. Good. Difficult job sometimes.
It is. It's the hardest job in the world.
What was the reaction? What's your son's name?
Ryan.
What was his reaction to this? He knew you were in a contest?
Oh, yeah. He loves this, and I made it twice last week as kind of the final prep and the practicing to do it, and he loves it. He's just like, I love this sauce. It's so nice, and it's wonderful.
This week on American Montage, we are in Manhattan. The special guests of the Procter & Gamble Company. You know them as the makers of an awful lot of things, including the Crisco cooking products, Tyson's and Holly Farms Chicken, and Parents Magazine. We're downtown Manhattan as 10 people from around the nation try to outcook each other using chicken products and Crisco products and a lot of imagination to make dishes that are easy to fix, dishes that their children love, and dishes that are quick, fast, fast, and nutritious. Right now, we're talking to Vonnie Malter, who is with Procter & Gamble. She's a Senior Product Research Associate. P&G is headquartered in Cincinnati, and being from rural Indiana, I have a lot of memories of going over there. I asked Vonnie about the rise in lighter cooking oil, particularly the use of what is called canola oil in many of its products.
Crisco vegetable oil is soybean oil, which of course is one of the more heavily used oil in cooking. Canola oil, on the other hand, is lower in saturated fat and healthier, and we actually introduced it under the name of Puritan as a separate oil and was not part of the Crisco line when we started. We did bring it under the Crisco name because we wanted Crisco to stand for light-tasting oil and not just for soybean oil, but all oils. And we started doing blends as well. We have a light-tasting corn oil, which is a combination of canola and corn, and natural blend, which also has a large percent of canola oil in it.
Does Crisco merchandise a peanut oil?
No, we do not merchandise a peanut oil.
When you said that, I was just thinking of that because my aunt used to pop popcorn in peanut oil all the time. It's got an interesting flavor to it. What has been the perception of the public lately about oils? I know that's kind of a loaded question, but I take it an awful lot of people have been hearing some of this health information and in a way overreacting to it. I mean, I have friends who say, I wouldn't use any kind of cooking oil, or if you do put 2 or 3 drops, I said, no, there's nothing wrong with it. What has been the conversations you've had with people and how Crisco's had to follow along with this?
They have been moving away from frying and shortening, and oil usage has actually increased to reduce the use of shortening because shortening is higher in saturated fat. People have been moving from soybean oil to canola oil because it's healthier. And through Crisco's processing, the oil tastes light and really doesn't add flavors to your food, but can bring the foods together, the flavors that are there.
You know, the one thing that amazed me as a kid, whether it's Crisco itself, the traditional product, or the oils, even though they're made in huge batches, it's all consistent. I mean, Crisco always looks like Crisco. Crisco oil always looks like Crisco oil. Maybe there's no magic in the production of it, but to keep it that pure and sanitary and all the things you have to do to produce food products, it amazes me the consistency you're able to get into it.
Well, luckily we have a wonderful processing plant by the name of Ivorydale that's located in Cincinnati, Ohio, and with our quality control, we're able to maintain product quality at a high level and a consistent level.
How important is it to a company like Procter & Gamble, the name brand Crisco, to have a cooking event like this, particularly because you're bringing, you're not bringing famous chefs like Julia Child, you're bringing everyday people who are producing a product?
Well, it's those everyday people that use our product. There are some chefs out there that do, but we find that it's the average housewife, the average home cook that is using our product, and by having an event like this, we're able to show that it's your neighbor next door that's using Crisco.
Where are you going in the future? I'm sure you have a lot of chemists out there, a lot of people who are working on new projects.
Well, we're out there trying to find either new sources of oil or new ways of processing the oil to produce a product that consumers consider to be superior to the others. We try to be on the cutting edge of the oils market.
You may not know the statistics here, but that amazed me tickled me maybe, when you said that it used to be called Puritan, which I used to buy, not knowing it was part of was it always part of the Procter & Gamble family?
Yes.
And you just basically changed, you didn't buy that from someone else and then make it part of Crisco?
We actually were marketing 2 different oils, just like we market more than one detergent, and decided that we wanted Crisco to be the name that was associated with Procter & Gamble oils.
Bonnie Malter of Procter & Gamble, the people who merchandise Crisco and Crisco products. You know, it is interesting over the years how the image of cooking oil has changed, as we were talking about. I remember when, as I mentioned, peanut oil was used to pop popcorn, and everyone cooked everything in lard. My grandmother was a wonderful proponent of cooking everything in lard, but we all know lard is not very healthy, and that's why companies such as Crisco and some of the others have been switching over to lighter oils, not just vegetable oils, but oils such as canola oil. I also talked to Annette Christensen from Detroit about how she got first interested in cooking and the contest.
My dish is red skin hash. It's red skin potatoes and chicken and some Cajun spices. It's the first recipe I have ever made up. Everything else came from a recipe. I may have adjusted it a little, but this is the first one I ever made from scratch, so to speak. I just saw it reading Parents Magazine, and I thought, you know what? This dish is child-pleasing. It meets all the criteria. I am just going to try it.
Is it easy in preparation? Some of the other people I've talked to stress the fact that people seem to be in so much of a hurry. If you can do something in one skillet or quickly now, that's really the way to go.
Mine is really easy. It's the kind of dish where you could... The hardest thing and the most time-consuming thing is boiling the red skin potatoes.
Or cleaning up afterwards.
Which you don't have to watch. That was the kind of dish that I would leave the potatoes cooking in the house and go and sit on the front lawn and visit with the neighbors. You didn't have to watch it. It does all cook in one skillet. It's very quick, very easy. You can substitute things if you don't like some of the stuff in the recipe.
Now, when you first get into the competition, I presume you don't send them a plate covered in saran wrap with this. You send a letter, you explain what you want to cook. How did you initially enter the contest?
You had to just send the recipe, and then a short little paragraph that described why it was child-pleasing.
And then, was there a regional competition? How did you eventually end up here in New York?
They did. Every state had a winner, so I won for Michigan, and then without me actually cooking anything, that recipe then competed in a regional contest with 5 states, and I won for that region and then came here.
Had you been to New York before?
I drove through once. My brother-in-law was married on Long Island.
I think most people say they've driven through once. It's you either love it or hate it here. I don't want to sound like I'm either with the New York Chamber of Commerce or I'm not with the New York Chamber of Commerce, but there's no place like this in the world. It's a weird kind of place.
I haven't really seen much of it, but I love Chicago, which is very close to Michigan, of course, to Detroit area. And it has a lot of similarities to Chicago. So far what I've seen I like.
You have children?
Yes.
How old?
I have a son who's almost 4 and a daughter who's 8 months.
What does the 4-year-old think about it? Is he old enough to understand that you're in a contest?
I actually called him this morning, and he said, "Where are you?" And I said, "New York." And he said, "Why?" And I said, "I'm in that cooking contest, remember, honey?" "Oh, yeah." And I said, "Is Mommy going to win?" And he said, "Yes." And he said, "When you win, I want a Batman computer." Okay.
Not a bad first prize.
That's right.
Again, what goes into your dish, and take us through the preparation of it? And why didn't you bring me some?
It's right over there.
I'll go get it in a minute.
It's red skin potatoes. You boil the red skin potatoes.
Those are kind of a small, slightly bigger than a golf ball.
Right. Right. You can get them a little bit larger than that, but yeah. You boil the red skin potatoes, and then you cut up chicken breasts and saute them with some green onions and put some Cajun seasoning on it. And then once the chicken is cooked, then you throw the potatoes back in, which are already warm. You kind of warm it all up, throw a little more Cajun seasoning on, top it with some peas, and then melt cheese over the top.
You sound like an experienced cook. Let me tap your brain by asking a question. I love to cook chicken. Occasionally, it's tough. Is it possibly, and I'll put in a plug for the sponsor here, that I'm not buying TYSON'S chicken, or I've cooked it too quickly? I mean, is there a secret to keeping chicken tender in the cooking, or am I doing something wrong?
I think that the key is to not cook it too much. I think people have this fear that, because you hear all of this stuff about meat not being cooked enough, and people tend to overcook the chicken. I heard that Tyson is coming out with a product where they're going to inject chicken broth into the product so that it will keep it moist for those people who tend to overcook it a little bit. But I think it has to do with how long you cook it and the temperature at which you cook it.
Well, Annette, good luck, and I'll come over and see your dish after a while.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks a lot.
The hospitality we have received from the folks at Crisco and Tyson Holly Farms Chicken, Parents Magazine, and even the NBC television network has been downright heartwarming here. We are in the midst of interviewing some of the 10 finalists for a wonderful contest called the Great American Cooks that Crisco has been putting on. 10 of them have come here from all over the country to New York to prepare their dishes, and before this program is over, we'll hear who won the big prize. Julie DiMatteo is from the New Jersey shore, just across from Philadelphia. I sat down and talked to her, and she brought out one of the most beautiful chicken dishes I've ever seen. I mentioned to her that food preparation is a wonderful, complex art, and the taste is important, but that the visual presentation is very important also.
Well, it's called Mexican chicken canoes, and I've taken a flour tortilla and put it into a little Pyrex cup and baked it until it's crisp.
So it becomes a little bowl.
It becomes a little bowl, and the filling is chunks of chicken with a sauce made of milk, cream cheese, and salsa. And then it's topped with shredded lettuce, shredded cheese, and salsa. And I have...
Now, is this fair? Can I nibble this, or are you sure? No, I don't. It's
no.
Pretty. I don't want to mess it up.
Oh, no, sure.
It's already been judged and everything. All right.
You can just pick it up probably and take a bite.
All right.
You might get sauce on you, sir.
Well, let's see. Let me scoot over here.
You want to leave?
Oh.
Did you get any sauce?
I don't care if I did. That's wonderful. So how is this prepared then? It's just poured into there? Is it recooked? Or?
Well, you brown the little cubes of chicken, and then you make a sauce, like I said, of milk, a little bit of flour, cream cheese, add some salsa, put it into the little tortilla cups, put some grated cheese on top, put it back in the oven for 5 minutes till the cheese melts, and that's it.
From start to finish, we're talking about how many minutes here?
Less than a half hour.
Okay, you found out about this in Parents Magazine. It's child-friendly, easy-to-cook dishes. What's been the reaction? You have more than one child? You have 1.6 children?
I have two sons, but they're grown.
Okay. Have they had a chance to try this?
Yes. Well, I actually used to make something similar to this when they were younger, but not with the tortilla shells. So they're very familiar with this.
You got a lot of healthy ingredients in there, too. I've not been married, so I don't know what it's like to try to keep a child healthy. But what is it like in this day and age when there's so much stuff out there for kids to eat, to get them to eat something wholesome?
Well, I think part of it is in the presentation. One thing I said in my little essay about this, which we had to write, was that you can always even sneak some other vegetables in that sauce there.
I can imagine putting a little finely chopped broccoli, maybe onion. Is there onion in there?
No onion, but you could put just about anything, I suppose, that would go with Mexican food.
The thing about this, too, is the way you fixed it, it isn't terribly spicy. I have an aversion to spice, and a lot of people, when they fix Tex-Mex, they think it has to taste like kerosene.
Well, actually, the good thing about this recipe is you can use from mild to hot salsa, you can use non-fat cream cheese, light, full fat, you can use skim milk, you can use whole milk, so it's very versatile.
And each one, you have 4 of these little bowls here. Depending on how hungry you are, with a little bit of a side order, one of these would be enough for one person. I would eat 2, but that's just because I love food.
It's a good size for a child, too, or children, even older children.
And even a young child could scoop out the contents and use the tortilla shell as a bowl in itself.
Or it's fun just to pick it up and, eat a bowl.
What was it like when you got the phone call, or maybe it was a letter, telling you that you'd gotten past the first hurdle in the contest?
Well, actually, the first thing was a letter, and it's always a surprise when you find out about that. And then I had to wait to see if I was the regional winner, and I just forget about it then, because I think, well, if I'm not, fine, if I am. And then I got a phone call, and it was just great.
Well, now, we should have had the contest in San Francisco, so you being from the East Coast could have gotten the trip to the West Coast.
Right.
Yeah. Well, Julie, good luck. It's wonderful. I'm going to have another little bite here, and thanks a lot.
Thank you.
We are at a wonderful cooking competition. Great Meals Start Here, sponsored by Crisco and Tyson Holly Farms and Parents Magazine. Al Roker of NBC will be announcing the winner in just a moment. But I wanted to talk to Ed Nicholson and Sue Quillen of the Tyson Holly Farms Company. They've come all the way from Springdale, Arkansas. I mentioned to Sue that I didn't know of any food product that was as quick and easy to fix and so much fun to experiment with as is chicken.
Actually, of course, from our standpoint, point. We don't see anything that's any easier than chicken, and that's our business to be saying that, to promote that. But in looking at the contestants and the way they've presented their recipes, 20 minutes or less, great meals start here with Tyson and Crisco, we've seen that the different ways that you can create chicken recipes are very easy, 20 minutes or less, very easy for the busy homemakers, and it's something that has quite a wide variety of taste appeal for any consumer.
You know, I and many of my listeners know I was with the agriculture department years ago and working with a lot of people dealing with chickens and chicken processing, and I was unaware as to how huge an industry in this country chicken raising and processing is. And I think more people would know about your company if you had the equivalent of that fellow who looks like a chicken, whose first name is Frank. I'm not going to mention his last name, but I always thought that you didn't have the same corporate identity as he had. But yours is a huge company,
actually,
and you've had a merger or acquisition, the Holly Farms aspect. Is that pretty recent?
Actually, it was in 1989. We were very fortunate to have the Holly Farms group join Tyson. It certainly strengthened our company, and they were a very, very well-known brand, and we continue to keep that brand in because of the consumer and retailer acceptance of that. It's studied us very well.
Is there much of a buying curve up and down depending upon the weather? I know in the turkey processing industry, obviously, they gear up, and the holidays seem to be the big season, although that type of meat is becoming more and more being accepted. Do you find the chicken grilling season, or do you see any curve at all in consumption through the year? Is it pretty steady?
No, actually, it's very steady. What we do see a curve in is the type of product that consumers will buy. You'll see more of the bone-in, skin-on products in the grilling season because it seems to be a little easier for them to grill. But no, we're very fortunate. Chicken consumption continues to grow, and it's very steady throughout the year, even through the holidays.
This is a great tie-in here. Parents Magazine and Crisco and Procter & Gamble and you guys at Tyson Holly Farms. It is so wonderfully mainstream. I mean, I'm not trying to sound patronizing here, but you're really hitting the way people live.
Absolutely, and all companies are very focused, of course, on families, children, and this is a great opportunity for us to work with very strong companies in their own respective areas, and we're thrilled to have them as partners, and it's actually a great learning experience for all three of us to learn about how consumers use our products on a day-to-day basis.
Is it fun to get those recipes in? I mean, I can imagine some of the recipes you get are a little off the wall.
Well, there are some that are a little unusual, but actually that's a lot of the fun of it. I mean, it expands our horizons and gives us the opportunity to look at our products a little differently.
Let me ask Ed Nicholson one or two questions here. Ed, from your vantage point, what has been, for you, the interesting aspect of this health craze people are? I mean, just in the 15 years since I've been away from the agriculture department, we were just then working with companies to improve chicken hot dogs, for example, to make them actually taste good. Where years ago people would buy chicken franks or turkey franks because of the health aspect, and they were okay. You know, you had to put a ton of ketchup on them. Now there are these wonderful products made from chicken and turkey that simulate ham and corned beef and everything else. Can you talk to the desires of the consumers, what they've been telling you about this, and how chicken fits into all of this?
Sure. People are more aware than ever before of their health and of the effect what they eat has on their health. And chicken is the perfect product for that lifestyle, for people who are aware of what they're eating, and because it's typically low in fat, and it's easy to prepare, it's quick, and it plays very well to people who are conscious about their health.
Joining me now is the only male competitor in the Final 10. His name is Jason Boulanger, and it looks like Boulanger. We were talking earlier about the fact no one can seem to pronounce his name. He is a biologist from Vermont, and he is cooking up something unlike what everyone else is doing. Instead of a skillet dish, his are in the form of what looks like a hamburger, but it's not.
It's called Apple Kiss Chicken Burgers.
Okay, now I must tell you as a journalist that the next time you put this in competition, there needs to be a hyphen between apple and kissed, because you can't modify. Well, anyway, I'm going to try. So can you lift the lid on one of these so I can hold the mic? Tell us how it's fixed while I try to eat this here.
Sure. Well, it's simply a matter of taking chicken breast and grinding it up in a Cuisinart with some spices, and we add apple and apple pie spice and cinnamon and blend it up. And that's about it. We have a topping which is made out of apple jelly and a mild chili sauce.
Now, what people at home don't know, Meredith Whiting from Brown & Whiting Public Relations is helping me here. They have to photograph this after a while, so they're trying to fix it so I can eat the middle of it and put the bun back on. How long does it take to fix this? That is wonderful.
Well,
Not saying you're going to win, but it's wonderful.
it takes about a half hour when I'm really... Oh, you spilled some on your tie there.
Hold on. What's a red tie?
Okay.
Okay.
It takes about 20 minutes or so if I'm really moving. If I'm taking my time, it takes about a half hour.
Now, are you like a lot of us who live alone? You have roommates?
I have 2 other roommates.
Do they cook?
They don't cook as often as me.
Did you try this on them?
I have not as of yet.
Well, you've got to try this on them.
Well, I certainly will.
What did it feel like when you got the notification that you'd crossed the first hurdle? Was it a phone call or a letter? Or?
It was a phone call. I was at work, and I was taken aback, obviously. I just couldn't believe that my chicken burgers made it. I just assumed there'd be thousands of entries, and what chance would I have?
Obviously, the TYSON'S people want me to ask you this question, but what about cooking with chicken? It's so darn easy most of the time. There's so many things you can do with it.
Exactly. It is really easy to cook, and honestly, I started out with this recipe using partridge, which is very similar to chicken breast meat.
Where can you buy partridge in Vermont?
Well, unfortunately, you can't. You have to go out there and shoot
but you're a wildlife biologist. You go out and get it, right?
That's right, I do. Yep. During the legal hunting season, I do go after partridge, otherwise known as ruffed grouse, and that's where it all started.
So these were grouse burgers originally?
Originally they were, yes. And I turned them into chicken burgers for this contest.
Now, you ask people what rattlesnake tastes like. So, well, it tastes like chicken. If I ask you what grouse tastes like, don't tell me it tastes like rattlesnake. What does it taste like?
I'm sorry, it tastes like chicken.
Okay. So why use grouse when you can use chicken?
Well, it's just an interesting way to cook grouse. It's, the meal means a lot more to me because I went out there and harvested it myself rather than paying someone else to do it for me. So it's...
Now, what kind of buns are you using here? These aren't regular, the run-of-the-mill hamburger buns. Are cut above that.
Right. The folks here helping me out for the contest went and got me some, looks like deli... fancy New York deli.
Only in New York.
That's right. That's
kind
right.
Of an egg bun, an egg roll type. Not an egg roll. That sounds Chinese.
That's right. It does. No, usually I just go with generic hamburger buns, either whole wheat or white, just at the local supermarket.
Well, I hope they make this recipe available because I think this is just wonderful.
Oh, great. Well, I'm glad you like it.
Jason, thank you.
Thank you, Dennis.
We are looking out through some spacious windows on the beautiful skyline of Manhattan, and we are ready to announce the 3 big winners in Crisco's Great American Cooks contest. And the second runner-up, who will receive a lot of wonderful computer equipment,
Susan Ward from Idaho.
And you may remember we talked to Susan earlier in this program about her special recipe.
Thank you very much. I just want to thank Tyson Holly Farms and Crisco. Thank you.
The runner-up gets a trip for his or her family to Washington, D.C. for the 4th of July and some other surprises.
Bonnie Shaw from Salisbury, North Carolina.
She's the one with the great barbecued chicken recipe.
I've never done this before. I've had a great time. I'd like to thank Tyson Holly Farms, Crisco, and Parents Magazine.
And the winner of the big check and all the goodies, her recipe was called Garden Risotto.
Miss Carrie Smith.
Carrie hails from California.
Wow. This is my first attempt at this sort of thing, and I did make this recipe kind of on a whim, and it just kind of happened, and wow, what an adventure.
The man who served as the master of ceremonies for all of this, someone whom I had wanted to meet for a very long time, NBC Television's Al Roker.
And of course, Carrie being an accountant, she knows what to do with that $5 grand. That's a pretty hot steaming deal. That's right. I'd like to also thank the folks at Crisco and Tyson Holly Farms and Parents for having me here. It was a lot of fun. I've never done something like this before. I mean, other than make a fool of myself in front of people, but I do that I do that most mornings. So, but to be able to be a judge in such a great contest is a real treat, and I thank you. And that concludes our awards program. I hope you had a great time. Hope you enjoyed it, and of course, don't forget fine hair care products, and fabulous cooking stuff. Have a great afternoon.
Well, you had to be there earlier to get the joke. Al Roker talking about hair care products. He was holding up a can of the spray Crisco cooking spray and saying that he ought to use it as a hairdressing. Well, it was great fun, and I'd like to thank the Procter & Gamble people, the owners of the trademark Crisco, and also Tyson Holly Farms and Parents Magazine. Let me throw in a little something here, which is kind of an extension of what Meredith Whiting and I were talking about. Cooking can be a wonderful, wonderful thing, particularly if you have children in the house and you want to bring them into the family spirit. We have left that kind of Walton-esque Ozzie and Harriet existence where we are, as the old saying goes, like ships passing in the night. We seldom see family members anymore. We pack lunches. We go to restaurants. We brown bag it. We don't sit down and cook and talk. The nice thing about using chicken and some of the wonderful recipes generated by our finalists is that they do not take that long. So sit down with the family, cook, and bring the family together. But one other thing, if you have small kids in the kitchen, be careful, keep the handles back from the stove. Don't let fun end up in tragedy. My thanks to Brown and Whiting, to everyone at Procter & Gamble, Tyson Holly Farms, and Parents Magazine. Some great food and smiling faces, the winners as announced by Al Roker at the 1997 Crisco Cook-Off. I'm Dennis Staley.